Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do the Night 2 SummerSlam, the first ever two-night SummerSlam to take place at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. We won't beat around the bush. We'll just go ahead and get right to it. We have six matches on the card, presumed to be everyone for a title. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first match is hopefully lives up to the precedent that was set by Io Sky and Rhea Ripley at Evolution 2. And this time we're adding Naomi. Naomi had just won her title by cashing in said match. KP, what are you thinking here? Are you thinking that Naomi's reign proceeded with caution, all of that, defending her women's world championship? You think all that's over? Or do you think Naomi finds a way to leave this match with the title in hand?
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to it, I think with the whole run that Naomi's gone through to get to this point, I think just to have her lose at of her first offense would maybe a little bit, yeah, wouldn't be quite what we're hoping for. I think it just would maybe fall a bit flat. So for that having been said, Naomi wins in my book quite comfortably here. I don't think there's really any doubt in my mind about that. However, maybe how that happens, maybe similarly to what we saw with Becky Lynch, Bailey, and Lyra recently, going back to Evolution. Possibly, Rhea and Io are sort of like occupied by themselves, and then, Naomi finds a way to capitalize and snatches a victory, just quickly out of nothing. So yeah, that's where my head's at the moment. I can't really see Naomi going through all of this to then lose at the first hurdle. So yeah, holding on to a title for sure, 100% for me.
It would be quite the head scratcher to have Naomi lose at this point, and I guess why you're already looking at my notes. Yeah, exactly what you said. The same dynamic here. Naomi, kind of goes unscathed because Io and Rhea are trying to recreate the magic that was present at Evolution 2. But yeah, it would be a questionable decision at best. For Naomi to lose here. Just wouldn't make any sense at all. To have her be built to this point and then have her lose, just yeah, not the right decision. I think we can all agree to that. Moving on to the next match, which is a rematch of Jacob Fatu going up against Solo Sikoa for that U.S. title. KP, does Fatu get his title back here?
Well, we got the classic situation here in a steel cage. The MFTs are going to be around, that they can't get involved, but they can get involved because we've seen it happen so many times in the past. Um, it would be so easy for me just to say that Jacob Fatu's going to win his title back, but I I don't think so. I really, really don't. Something just tells me deep down that Solo's going to win here, um, and that he's going to find a way to retain. I don't exactly have like the utmost confidence in either option here, but I just think realistically, at the end of the day, Solo, having had his first championship win not too long ago, and what, he's had one defense since against Jimmy Uso, was it? We could possibly see Jimmy Uso involved in this. I don't think that's outside the realms of possibility. Maybe trying to cancel out, the effect of the MFTs on the outside. But there are like three of them, so I don't know how well that's really going to go down. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go Solo wins. It's a weird one. I feel like maybe it's not quite that clear cut, but yeah, I don't know. I ain't got anything better, so I'm going to go with Solo Sikoa to win.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Jimmy because I think the last time Jimmy got involved, it was not more than a 10-second thing, and then he was out of the picture entirely, and then Jacob Fatu had to fend off the entirety of MFT. So yeah, this one is, I would say, probably one of my least confident ones. I feel like personally, Jacob is just obviously, has gone above and beyond. I think um, what a lot of people probably thought he was going to be in the company. But I think personally, I think you can kind of play it either way. If Solo is to retain here, they can continue going on, being this MFT bloodline like faction and creating chaos for the rest of the roster. I don't really want to see this feud last any longer. I think we're just kind of getting to that point where it kind of should be stopped. But if Fatu wins here, obviously, I think that feud will probably will continue. So it's a bit of a stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think if Fatu is not to win, though, I think the feud would be over. Then I think Fatu has bigger things in mind. I think the company does as well. So yeah, with that, I'm going to go with Solo to retain. I think the numbers game is just in his favor. Like you said, even though we are in a steel cage, I think there are things that could still happen to prevent Fatu from winning. So I think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go Solo retaining here, and I think Jacob kind of moving up and possibly moving on. Next match, we have arguably the one of the best feuds. And that is Becky Lynch defending her women's Intercontinental title against Lyra Valkyria. Of course, the stipulation, after a little confusion, is if Lyra is to lose here, she cannot challenge for the women's Intercontinental title while Becky is the champion. KP, who do you have coming out of this one as champion?
So when it comes down to this one, this is quite an awkward one because you've got Lyra and Becky. Obviously, they've both held the title each. I think that just in my head, it made sense for Lyra to eventually get this title back, but I have a feeling she isn't going to. So we saw Bayley on Monday Night Raw, and she was obviously, very disappointed that she's not going to be at SummerSlam. She also missed WrestleMania this year, so her mentality completely, spiraling downwards here. I think that there's been a lot of tension between Bayley and Lyra recently. Not so much like either of them being a heel to one another, but sort of like just aggressively sort of fighting for their opportunity to take the title from Becky Lynch. But I feel like maybe this is going to go down to Becky wins this matchup because Bayley costs Lyra, and then we get a Bayley and Lyra proper feud going forward. That allows Becky to go on to something different, to remove herself from the situation. Which, don't get me wrong, this has been absolutely brilliant. I've loved this entire feud and dynamic between the three women. But yeah, I think maybe that just makes the most sense in my head right now. So I'm going to go with the Becky Lynch win here to retain her championship, and then we see Bayley and Lyra go at it going forward, and then obviously Becky gets something different going down the line as well. I think that just opens up a lot more doors, and it provides something a little different in the mix as well. So yeah, Becky to win. What about you? Because I know you've been very you've been very driven towards Lyra getting this title back. Do you think she's going to do it?
So with the Bayley stuff, obviously, it does feel like maybe it's almost too obvious that she would get involved here. And I think you could obviously play that in one of two ways. You could have Bayley get involved to, prevent Lyra from winning, as you alluded to, or you could have Lyra get that title back, and then Becky comes in afterwards. Or you know what would also make a lot of sense. Bayley comes in to take out Becky, just like, to return the favor that, she received from SummerSlam, getting taken out and replaced there, because clearly she's not over that. And that kind of contributes to the current state that she's in. So I think there are certainly lots of ways you could play this. I do like the possibility of Becky winning, moving on, and then continuing a feud with Lyra and Bayley. I don't think that there's a title needed for that feud, as you kind of mentioned. I think that feud would be great as well, and then Becky can, move on to whoever would be the next challenger. But for me, it just the way this feud has gone, it feels like it's time to make it full circle. So I do think Lyra's going to win, and I don't 100%. I'm not confident that Bayley's going to show up, but it certainly does seem like those seeds have been planted. So if she is to show up, I think she will just attack Lyra after the match, giving us that heel turn, and then Becky can, still be involved if she wants. Doesn't have to be if she doesn't want to either. So I think that kind of Lyra needs the title. If I'm being honest, I feel like this whole story wouldn't make sense if the ending didn't get to her getting that title back. Not to say it can't if she does lose here, but I think it just makes more sense for her to get that back. Whereas obviously, as Becky doesn't really need the title. So yeah, that's why I'm going to go with Lyra to win here. And yeah, I would love to see Bayley get involved afterwards if that does involve a heel turn. So I'm here for it. But as you kind of mentioned, there's not a bad way for this to go as long as they make it interesting, I think. Moving on to the next match, we have finally, now that Dirty Dom has been cleared, we have him defending his Intercontinental title against the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. KP, who do you have coming out of this one? I think this is similar to the last couple. This one's pretty difficult to decide. Who do you have coming out of this one?
Yeah, this one really is difficult. So we haven't seen Dom defend his title in quite a while. And obviously, going up against somebody pretty high profile like AJ Styles at SummerSlam, yes, that's a big match. So obviously Judgment Day are always possible, to get involved, and there's always numbers there ready to interfere and whatever. So I'm sure we'll probably see that take place. As to where my head's at, though, this is really tough. I think the more I think about it, the more it does make sense for AJ to win against Dom, just purely for the fact that why haven't they done anything with Dom recently? They obviously, this goes back to like before the Saudi show, and Dom missing that one because of his ribs and the injury that lasted pretty much until like last week, which is crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have done something better with that if he wasn't injured. I'm guessing he was, but yeah, I feel like if he wasn't injured, then why have they just done this entire thing of just nothing with him? So yeah, it does strike me as as a little bit of a weird one. But I think I will go with AJ Styles to win. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Dom somehow wins this, via Judgment Day interactions and whatnot. So it's a tough one. It really is interesting. But yeah, what do you think? That injury plays a lot, and the lack of really creative booking for Dominik Mysterio recently. Does that play a big part for you?
Yeah, I think it certainly could. I do share a sentiment in that, if the injury is legitimate, then fine. I'm not convinced that it is. Of course, WWE does these swerves so often that you struggle to believe anything, unless you see someone in a surgery recovery room, and even then you're like, was that real? But anyways, yeah, Dom is very much taking that Eddie Guerrero heel route here, and just very slimy and I feel like it just adds to that kind of feeling with him not defending. So I, yeah, kind of as you mentioned, I could see either one. I think just to, but it is strange how little he's being utilized considering how over he is as a heel, which is just a crazy thing. Don't see very often. Um, to my answer, it's criminal how long it's been since AJ's had a title, a meaningful one at that. And so I do want AJ to win here, and I just feel like because for whatever reason Dom hasn't been used as much as he should have been, even if it wasn't a non-match capacity. So I think it is probably best just to give the title to AJ, and then obviously Mysterio has plenty of things he can do with the Judgment Day if we're going to continue that angle of literally unlimited amount of possibilities that they could take that one. So I think just for something new, something fresh, I think I am going to go AJ Styles as well. And then let those dream matchups ensue. I've even seen the likes of if Cena were to lose, have him go up against AJ Styles and Cena for the Intercontinental title. I think that's a matchup I think a lot of people would love to see. Moving on to the next match, we have the long-awaited TLC match. We got kind of a smaller version of this on SmackDown after Mania, but people were clamoring for that match to be on Mania, and rightfully so. This tag division has been killing it for what feels like the better part of a year. KP, who do you have coming out of this mess of a match with those tag team titles?
Yeah, this is an absolute mess. To be fair, it's probably the match that I'm most looking forward to over the weekend, purely for the fact that literally anything could happen. There are 6 teams. Carnage is guaranteed in this one. Destruction, chaos, whatever you want to call it. Uh, but yeah, ultimately you do have to ask yourself who is coming out of this one with those tag team championships, around their waist or holding them up high, whichever you want to say. Um, I will be straight up, point blank honesty. I have no idea. I genuinely don't know. Looking at the teams in front of me here, it's just like there are so many options that you could go down. Obviously, you just had the Street Profits come off of a tag team title reign, so naturally, maybe you would rule them out because of that reason. The Wyatts, obviously, holding them. I guess you could say that maybe they've just started their reign and they're not really that far into it, so they could have them a bit longer. You've got DIY, Gargano and Ciampa. They've held the titles semi-recently, as have MCMG. But the only team that hasn't really held the titles in this one are Fraxiom, Nathan Fraser and Axiom, as well as Ray Phoenix and Andrade. So I guess, an opportunity like this for one of those two teams would be incredible. I think it probably is a little bit too early for Andrade and Ray Phoenix, although they've been very good recently. I think maybe it's a little too early for them. So we'll rule them out. I'm going to rule out DIY as well, just for the fact that they've held the titles pretty recently. I don't think they need to hold them again right now. I'm going to rule out Street Profits as well. So we've got Motor City Machine Guns, the Wyatts, and Fraxiom. Although I would love to see any of these teams really just come out on top, because I think they're probably the three best choices for me. I'll rule out Motor City Machine Guns, I guess for the same reason as Street Profits and DIY. I really think a moment here could be in the making for Fraxiom. I'm so tempted to go with that, but just because of how recently the Wyatts have won those tag team titles, I feel like taking them away from them after what they've sort of built around the tag team division, building each other up to get to a point where they're very competitive with each other, and obviously that's showing literally in the build for this matchup with a brawl at the end of SmackDown. For them, the Wyatts to come in to completely take over, and for them to turn all of the tag team's attention to that one team, I feel like maybe that needs to continue and that needs to go forward a little bit longer here, or else, what was really the whole point in that was literally just for that one little bit so they could win the tag titles, and then we go back to how things were. I don't know. That seems a little bit throwaway to me. So I guess I'm going to say the Wyatts to win the matchup. But I really want Fraxiom to win. I think they would be the better options here. But yeah, the Wyatts to retain their titles, I guess, is where my head's at, just purely based on my own logic. Whether you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So what exactly do you think is going to happen here? Do you have a clear-cut idea?
No, the short answer. And I think most of your logic is pretty sound. Obviously, MCMG, DIY, and Street Profits all having held those titles pretty recently. If this is any other title, I would say no, we're not losing title that quickly. But it seems like the tag titles, for better or worse, are those one titles on WWE that they don't really mind hot potatoing as much as the others, and I say near as much, not even close to as much. So I think that leaves the other three teams. I still think Andrade and Ray could absolutely come away with the titles here. Equally, as hot as Fraxiom was not that long ago, with the matches they've been winning as well. So I think those three teams are really the most realistic ones. But I just feel like Street Profits are just that team right now. I feel like if you were to give me an option of any of these teams, Street Profits are the ones I would put most of my investment into, just because they have that factor to me. I think, unfortunately, though, as you mentioned, I think this could be a moment, because this division is so heavy and stacked. I think Wyatt Sick losing here wouldn't be a huge deal, if they're defending against five teams, for crying out loud. So I don't feel like it would be a huge deal for them to lose, but I think they showed us the dominance of Eric Rowan, and I think that could certainly play a part into this. Obviously, the rest of the team, being the Wyatt Six, could play a part here, and I think they will. And I feel like the other teams don't quite have the assistance in that way. So, a long-winded way to say yes, I wouldn't be surprised if another team wins here. But I do think the Wyatt Six, simply because of the assistance that they have, and yeah, that's kind of the main reason I'm going to go with that. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wyatt Six don't win, but I think their odds are better than everyone else's. We then get into the main event, which features John Cena defending his undisputed WWE Championship up against Cody Rhodes. This is the rematch from WrestleMania. KB, this one is tricky for me. Do you have a clear winner here?
The short answer is I think so. I've had a lot of time to think about this matchup and where exactly my head's at going into it. I expected John Cena and Cody Rhodes, the rematch, to be a lot later in the year. I thought it would be, around the month of November, December, Survivor Series into, the last sort of month of Cena's retirement tour. I thought to me that made the most sense. Um, I think that if it was then, this would be so easy to decide because this is midway through the year. Um, I think you could make arguments for both men winning here and carrying things on. In my opinion, we had the whole Cena, taking the title, ruin wrestling story, and I feel like that's maybe sort of like simmered out a little bit recently. Is that because Cena hasn't had many appearances? Maybe it probably is that, to be honest. And I feel like maybe a lot of the focus from that story has been taken away, and it's sort of seemingly been lost in the shuffle. I think that a win over Cody Rhodes here for John Cena would maybe allow that to sort of kickstart back up again. I know not many people have been happy about the story per se, but they've obviously invested a lot in it. So from a logistical stance, it makes sense for them to really hone back in on that and to focus back on it once more. Cody winning just sounds like the easy option because it's a rematch. He gets his title back. He overcome adversity to get there. And this time, he's aware of John Cena and he's going to get the job done. Um, I just think that's too easy. It just sounds it. It sounds it in my head. It sounds way too easy. So I guess I'm going to go with John Cena winning and retaining, just purely for the fact that we've still got a number of months left. Cody can still have another opportunity down the line. It's Rhodes. He's not going to go a while without winning some more matches, is he? Like, he's always in that main event picture. So yeah, I think ultimately my mind is at John Cena to retain here and to hold the title for a little bit longer, going into those late months of the year, and then maybe we can obviously I can maybe have a bit more of a serious discussion about whether he's going to lose the title there and then. But obviously against who, that we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think John Cena to win. What about you, Nick? Because this is quite an interesting one, right? This is the big match.
Yeah, I think you could paint the picture several different ways. I think obviously Cody. I think the elephant in the room is the Cody footing with the heel turn that we could see. I think you can only keep, well, first of all, the story of how he's going to ruin wrestling kind of does fall flat. I think if you have him lose the title here, it didn't last long enough for that kind of to be taken seriously. Now, if he's still holding the belt in 3 months from now, then that story becomes much more realistic. Ruin wrestling, take home the belt, that kind of thing. But even with that angle, and I think you kind of alluded to it, they dropped. I think because they realized. Well, A, I don't think that was the original story they had planned, and B, this is a farewell tour, so they're only going to buy into that or give him the heel reaction that they are wanting from him for so long before people start to realize, well, we're down to single digits of appearances. We're not going to boo him regardless of what he's doing. So I think that certainly plays a part here. As you kind of mentioned too, is it too early to do that? That's what I can't quite decide. First of all, we predicted, I think, if Cody were to go heel here, this would be the third prediction of a heel turn at SummerSlam. So I certainly think all of those, we're not going to get all of those, but it would be nice if we got maybe one or two of those. This for me, in terms of want, is huge. I would put this one over any of the others. Cody turning heel here to win the title back from Cena. Cena then goes full on face for the last 5 months of his career. I would be all on board for that. I just don't see why they'd put Rhodes back in this picture if not to win his title back, and I can't get over that hump. And so even if it's not a full heel turn. I think Rhodes does get the best of Cena, and he does get his title back here. At the biggest stage of the biggest party of the summer. So I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes here to win. Maybe wishful thinking. We'll see, but I don't think it makes any sense for Cody to come back here to lose once again. So yeah, not super confident. I can see it either going either way, but I am very much looking forward to this one, as I am most of the card on SummerSlam. So those are our night 2 predictions, and this has been the push with Nick and KP. Please do let us know in the comments below if you disagree with any of our predictions here, or you have a better idea for some of these matches. Obviously, we weren't super confident on a lot of these from night 2 in particular. So let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well. And until next time, we will be back with the reactions for SummerSlam, as well as SmackDown and Raw over the next few days as well. So until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.